Let's do it. Hey guys, what's up? Alec Torelli here from Conscious Poker. I'm really excited today. I'm chatting with Brian Lam, one of our graduates from Alec's Academy, who's had some amazing results. And most importantly, we're going to get into moving up in stakes, making 2K a month as a side hustle, boosting your confidence, quitting on a high note, calculating equity, some pre-flop strategy decisions, and more, some actionable takeaways for you guys to help you on your poker journey. Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alec.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And I kind of want to start in the middle. I know you just graduated the academy. You've had some time to implement some of the things you've learned. And I really wanted to get into one of the things I know a lot of people have questions about, or one of the things that are people's goals in poker, and that is moving up from 1-3 to 2-5, as well as making poker actually a profitable side hustle. So I know you've been able to accomplish that and you're on that journey now. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like moving up from 1-3 to 2-5? What was holding you back before? What are some of the things you overcame and how that journey's been for you?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the noticeable things about moving up from 1-3 to 2-5 is that players tend to have a little bit better understanding of the game. They're not going all in with any two cards pre-flop just because they've made, a small investment or 3-bet. Now they're pot committed. But I think the transition for me has really benefited a lot from taking your course and learning the fundamentals of pre-flop play to start out, and understanding where some of my mistakes were and trying to avoid those mistakes going to the flop and then ultimately the river where all the decisions are made. And I think just going through the process of understanding what hand ranges look like, given the action, has just greatly helped me reduce some of the mistakes that I had previously in my game, and then also try to capture as much profit as possible in every session.
Thank you for that. And one of the things that people could do right away is to visit consciouspoker.com and download for free the hand range funnel, which is the methodology that we talk about. Obviously, we go into way more detail in the academy, but one thing people could do for free is just download the hand range funnel that we teach at Conscious Poker, and it's at consciouspoker.com. It's totally free, and that'll really help with that hand reading you're talking about. And I think you nailed on something that's really important, and that is that the decisions sort of compound throughout the hand, and that if you make pre-flop fundamental mistakes, it ends up leading to a situation where the pot is bigger on the flop, the pot is bigger on the turn, the pot is even bigger on the river, and because you made this one mistake pre-flop, you end up compounding that mistake and making a bigger mistake on the river because you're in the pot with hands you shouldn't have been in, which causes you to have a wider range than you should have, which causes you to compensate by over bluffing, which means that on the river, you're playing too loose, you're getting picked off. And in these smaller stakes games, 1-3 and 2-5, it's just not a strategy that works because people aren't folding enough. So you're trying to compensate over here by going on strategy A, and the people are adjusting by strategy B. And ironically, you're backing yourself into a wall because their adjustments, if you could even call it adjustments, their tendency of play is ending up countering the lack of pre-flop fundamentals that many people have. And this is why with my clients and students, one of the first things we focus on is tightening up your pre-flop play. And I think that's really, really important, both to do with not limping in is a simple strategy you can adopt. And number two, if your hand is strong enough to play it as a raise, and stop calling raises with marginal hands that you want to draw from. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, for you, that this might have been an adjustment in your approach towards poker, because many people go towards the poker table with this idea that they're going there to have fun. And so they want to play a lot of hands because it's more fun. But what I always tell clients is, look, it's more fun to win. It's more fun to have the result. Like, to me, it's more fun to feel confident and be in great shape and perform well than it is to eat a piece of cake. It's more fun in the moment to eat the cake, but it's really what I want, and what most people want are the results of being in great shape. And the same is true in poker. It's more fun to play the Jack 7 suited, but what's really fun is making $2,000 a month on the side.
Yeah. Can't agree more with that. it's exciting to get a kick out of, having that piece of cake. But when your goal is to get into shape, if you're feeling worse for eating it, like what's the point? You just wasted a bunch of time goal setting and just to play a couple hands more than you should have played, and then going home a loser. That's the worst kind of feeling. That's not fun at all, right? I mean, and I think that's why your course was so great, because it just teaches a bunch of practical things. Like all the things that you just mentioned are true about some of the mistakes that people tend to make at 1-2 and 2-5, which are pretty much low stakes in the game. So
totally. So I know your goal was, you say you talk about making a couple grand on the month as a side hustle. How has that transition been going? And what are some of the systems that you've put in place to get to that goal? Like, talk to me about going from playing 1-3 before with no sorts of goals, no sorts of systems, routines, or whatever, to now feeling confident that you could actually achieve that goal. What were some of the steps you took that other people could implement as well? Like, what were some practical takeaways that you had to help you achieve that side hustle goal?
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff was actually outside of the card room. One of the first takeaways I think that were really practical for me, where they're focusing on some of the physical aspects of just performance, what you eat, how well you sleep, if you're exercising. These are going to make noticeable changes in the way that you are playing poker, because your mind is clear. Another one has been learning when I'm going to actually play, having a set amount of time dedicated and putting 100% into that. And I'm not thinking about anything else. So my decisions are not influenced by having to do something else. And I know I'm just going to come and show up and play my best A-game poker, because the casino's got to be there tomorrow. There's no pressure for me to play. And so whether I'm stuck or whether I'm up, I have a focus of that session, and I'm just going to follow through on that session no matter what. I mean, that was huge for me, because I was one of those guys who would be stuck, and then he'd be playing his worst poker, and I'd start loosening up. And your course talks about how the game changes when there's a new player that comes in, or fresh group of players that come in. You're just putting yourself in a really bad spot if you're consistently playing when you're stuck, trying to win your money back, loosening up, and not following those pre-flop charts and being disciplined. And that's a big part of poker, being patient and disciplined, and focus on good play, not trying to get lucky with 3-5 off, flop a straight, and then double up, and then or get some kind of random 2-pair on the river, and then bust the guy because he has ace king and you got like ace-7 off or something, which is what a lot of the players do in 1-3, 2-5, especially because they're there to have a good time. They're there to gamble. There's nothing wrong with that. They're there to gamble, but they do want to win. But some of those mistakes come into play when they think that there is no sort of math involved. I mean, equity. Your course talks a lot about equity and hand range funnel, and that was pretty huge for me in actually understanding the reality of poker and the number of hands that you can play profitably from different positions.
Yeah, I want to unpack a few things you said about when to play, the amount of time, quality versus quantity, but I wanted to get from you, and I know we talked about this a lot in the academy and the mental game and having a focus for the session. What do you think that you implemented as the focus for the session that allowed the unlock for you to go from playing when you're stuck and tilting and playing badly to then start playing well, or having the discipline to quit the game when you should quit? Because I know a lot of people, they intellectually know that they shouldn't play when they're stuck, or they should quit the game, or they shouldn't play in bad games, or they should be more patient, but they can't quite do it. So what did you make your focus that kind of helped you actually implement some of this that maybe people can draw from?
Yeah, I think your course has one of these activities where it actually lays out, and it's an exercise that helps you define in a very simple statement, what is my goal? And I think after doing that, I won the next 5-6 sessions, and they're all great. And I walked away with a really nice profit. I just said, look, I'm here to play my best poker and put myself in the best situations possible, so that I could have enough money on the side to travel or do whatever it is what I want. And my session, my focus of the session is to just be disciplined in trying to play mistake-free poker. And it was that simple. And it wasn't like this really complicated up and down sort of volatile session that it could become when you got all these emotions that come into play, different personalities, maybe there's some socializing going on or whatever. You're feeling and thinking a range of different things throughout the session.
Yeah, I think you really touched on it. It's like, I have this big goal, right? Like, I'm playing poker. When you really get under it, and I do this a lot when I'm working with clients and students, like, you really get to the bottom of why people are motivated to play poker. And of course, people love the game. They want to be challenged intellectually. But for a lot of people, they're compelled by the lifestyle component of it. They want to like have the more freedom, excitement that poker allows them. And so they realize, like, if I'm going to play poker anyway, I'm going to play 20 hours a week anyway. It's not like I'm doing anything different in my normal life. I'm just optimizing those 20 hours. So instead of going from breaking even or losing $500 every month in my entertainment money, I'm going to making a couple thousand a month. Right now, that could open up quite a bit of things in my life for me that are pretty exciting. Like you mentioned, I want to travel. So now suddenly you're sitting there, you're looking at your whiteboard, or you're doing whatever you're doing. You're looking at your goals or your journal or whatever you're doing. And however you get excited about things in your life, you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, if I just figure out how to optimize these 20 hours a week, I can actually, or 40 hours a week, whatever it is you're playing poker, I could actually, make this money. And with that money, I could do something that's really deeply meaningful to me. And all I have to do is sit there and fold. I mean, I'm not trivializing how easy it is to win at poker, but I mean, a lot of times people are their own worst enemy. They intellectually know how to win. If they were taking a test on a score sheet, they would score a 95 in poker, a 90 in poker, which is enough to win in a 1-3 or 2-5 game. But they're sitting there self-sabotaging because they're losing in the game because their mental game is out of whack. And so they realize, like, if I could just connect my poker playing to a really big goal that's really exciting to me, and then I could narrow that down on a daily basis and say, my goal for this session is to just play optimal poker. My goal is just to play well so that I can take a trip to wherever, a road trip in the summer to the mountains or whatever, and do something amazing, or travel to Barcelona and play the EPT or whatever it is. I could live my poker dream. And like, this is what is at stake. And this is what I have to do. And when you break it down in steps and you reverse engineer and go from the big picture of what you're trying to do down to, what do I need to do this one session? What do I need to do this one hand to play well? It suddenly seems kind of trivial that it seems kind of like reckless, at least to me. And it feels like terrible to waste the money chasing a draw you shouldn't chase. It just feels, it's such a negative feeling that I have that I'm like, I just don't even want to do it anymore. I don't even want to call with the Jack 7. I actually want to fold. So you actually change your desire, you change your hardwiring, and it's easy to play well. I don't know if you feel the same way.
That's huge. I mean, everything that you just said was just packed with a ton of stuff that was getting in my way before, just being my own worst money. I mean, my own worst enemy. Folding is boring, but it's detrimental to the goals that you have for playing poker when you are chasing that draw you shouldn't chase, or playing way too loose, and it gets into like this this state where now I'm showing up and I'm just a gambler, and I'm there because I want the excitement. I want the dopamine high of gambling.
Yeah.
I mean, and you might as well play blackjack, to be honest, because you're not really trying to do anything intellectual or challenging. You're not trying to compete. You're just gambling, right? And you're going to lose to the house anyway. But when you're playing with you're playing poker, I mean, you might as well give yourself the best shot by actually treating it like it's giving it the respect that it deserves, like it's an actual sport, it's an actual competition, and or whatever it is for you, an endeavor to make a little bit of extra money on the side.
Yeah, and I think that's really, I think that's really great. You mentioned an athlete, and I think so many people just treat poker like a hobby, and that's fine. But if you really want great results and you really want to win, it's time to start treating it like you would treat yourself if you were, a mental performance athlete, which is why, some of those things you talked about earlier, coming full circle of the diet, the exercise, the lifestyle, the routine, getting in shape. You're treating yourself. You are a mental performance athlete, right? The quality of your decisions is contingent on your ability to think, right? So if you're tired, you have brain fog because you're eating terrible diet, or you're having these ups and downs because you're high and low on caffeine, or your blood sugar's all over the place because of your diet, or you're not sleeping properly, or you're not doing cardio before your sessions, or you're just not, in a clear mental space, maybe because you have a lot on your mind because you're busy with work or other challenges of your life, you're not meditating, whatever it is. There's all these ways to mitigate against these things, to show up with a clear, focused mind where you can get into the zone. And the analogy I like to use with clients is like, look, you want to win at a high level in poker. So think about what another athlete would do to win at a high level in their game. They're not showing up to game day, not that you're necessarily in the NBA with this stuff, but like if you look at an athlete in the NBA, the NFL, like they're not showing up to game day like with baggage on their plate, with stuff on their mind, with things they have to do, with a to-do list. They're not showing up, trying to be in the middle of multitasking and do other things and take a phone call at halftime of the NBA game. But why do we do the same thing at the poker table? People are taking phone calls at breaks. Not that you shouldn't be on the phone necessarily, but it's like your mind should be in the game. It's like, I watched the interview the other day with an athlete, and he was pedaling on the bike to get ready for the game. And this reporter came up to him. And the reporter was like, hey, I need you to do a pregame interview, or not need you, but I'd like you to do a pregame interview. Let me ask you 3 questions about the game. And he literally like picked the guy up by the shirt, and he's like, I don't do pregame interviews. I've told you this before. And it's because he's so freaking in the zone that like the whole world is in black and white, and him and the ball are in color. And that's the zone you really have to get yourself into. And it's not something people stumble upon this zone. So everybody knows what I'm talking about. When you're completely focused, you're in the zone, and you feel like you know exactly what everyone has every hand. It's like a superpower. You're like, what the hell? How amazing is this feeling? But why? What if you can get that every time? Like that could be engineered. It happens coincidentally when suddenly you do everything right, or maybe you're running well, or maybe you're just super focused that day because you ate well, you slept well, and like you don't have anything else on your mind. You just coincidentally got in the zone. We've all coincidentally been in flow while we're working, or in the zone while playing poker. But these are things that are actually, there's elements that make up your playability. There's elements that make up how well you're going to play. And if you manipulate those and engineer them, you could be in the zone 8 or 9 out of 10 sessions. And if you're not, you can quit. But you can engineer yourself to be in the best stage of mind possible. And that makes a huge difference, because everyone has an A game and everyone has a C game. And there's a huge difference between everyone's A game and their C game. And if you just play your A game more often, that can increase your win rate too. So I'm really glad that you took that away from the academy. And I think that's like really, really important. And it's really interesting to hear you say, look, I moved up from 1.3 to 2.5. My goal is I'm making 2K a month at poker. And a lot of it happened away from the table. And that's where I think it's so interesting, because it's like you can be better at playing poker, or you could be a better poker player. And both are really, really important. But I find that a lot of people have neglected completely how to be a better poker player. They just completely neglect it. And then all these things suffer. And when they work on them, they have profound results.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more to the game than just understanding the fundamentals of whatever aspect of poker it is that you're trying to focus on. And I think your course is really holistic in that it covers a lot of these aspects of what you can do at the tables and before the game to optimize your play and really visualize your goals and have a plan for achieving them.
Awesome. And thank you for that. I wanted to end on one high note here, which no pun intended, because you sent me this message about quitting the game on a high note to boost confidence and develop like showing up to play your A game more consistently, and how, you know, when you quit on a high note and you're winning, that just sort of, you take that with you to a next session and it compounds. Can you talk a little bit about the adjustment you made and how this has helped you achieve that goal of making a side hustle of poker?
Yeah. We all have those sessions where we get our aces cracked, right? And it's a funny story, because actually recently I got my aces cracked like twice, and then my kings cracked, and I kept playing and playing throughout the session and losing buy-in after buy-in. And this was after a pretty big upswing that I had. But I moved down. I moved down to 1-2, and I grinded back that a good amount of the money that I had lost. And then I quit the session. And I realized that the next 3-4 sessions that I would have at 2-5, I wasn't gonna have this mental approach to the game where I saw somebody with like 4 or 5 buy-ins and I saw him winning with like 4-7 off, or like these random hands against these loose players at the table. I wasn't trying to be that guy. I was just trying to come to do what I was planning to do, which is getting a acceptable win rate based on the stakes that I'm playing. And I'm just going to play my best poker. And I won the next 3 sessions, and now I'm just cruising. You know, I'm just trying to pick up from the last session with a win. I think your PowerPoint really has one of your PowerPoints has a really good point. It's saying never lose 2 sessions in a row. You want to come in and feel like you're at least even or winning. That's been huge for me. And you know, I hope I never have another really big downswing without being able to you know, catch myself and maybe just play a little bit lower stakes, or go in there with a different approach to just playing well and starting off kind of fresh again.
Totally. So just to clarify on the point, sometimes you have to lose 2 sessions in a row. It's not like it's impossible not to, and because sometimes you don't always get up. But I think the point you're making is that you could control a lot of times when you book a win, and sometimes it's better to book the win to end on a high note and leave the session positive, even though you're giving up some opportunities. So maybe you'll only play a session for 2-3 hours, but because you've been losing in a period, you're on a downswing, and you want to stop that downswing in its tracks, you can book a win. And that does a couple things. Number one, it puts a win on the books, which can never be taken away from you. So you look at your poker tracker, you look at your stats, you look at your database, you look at your wherever you keep records, you see lose, win. Okay, so I booked a win now. I'm not losing anymore. I'm winning. Psychologically, you take that that confidence with you back into the next session, where you go back into the next session. Now you're winning. So you're never losing, because you stop the losing. And so there's almost always a point in a session where you're up and you feel like, I could quit here, but I'm probably not going to. But if you feel that, it could be a good time to book a win if you're on a downswing. And this is a one way to like, you can't control the variance, right? But you can control how well you play. And if you could kind of hack your way into playing your A game more often, because you're never in a losing mindset, because you book wins occasionally when it's the right time to, it's about that self-awareness of knowing when it's time to push EV at all costs and just like maximize expectation, play your hours, get your hours in because everything's going well and it's compounding on the virtuous cycle of winning. And when it's time to pull brakes and say, you know what, maybe I'm going to book a win here and not necessarily try and be the hero. I'm going to have the humility, like you said, Brian, which is amazing, move down in stakes where the game is a lot easier. The game is softer. I'm like way more confident because I'm moving down. So I'm the one that's, you know, one of the most experienced or the best players in the game. I go down, I book a win, I book 2 wins, then I move back up. And that just kind of stops the downswing in its tracks. So I'm really glad that helped. And I think that's a huge hack that people can implement as well.
Yeah. Glad to share.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate this. Guys, appreciate you watching. If you want more, you can join Alec's Academy. Click the link below or visit alex.academy, ALECS.academy. Otherwise, leave a comment with your favorite takeaway. Thank Brian for being here. He was amazing. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.